Yo, what's up? My name's Adrian and welcome to the channel. In the last video we covered Koga, the poison type gym leader in Kanto who eventually becomes an Elite 4 member. In this video we'll be covering the poison type specialist who replaces him, Janine, who's actually his daughter. So like the last video with Koga, we'll be giving her new teams which I think are cooler and suit her better. We'll be giving her multiple gym battle teams, a gym rematch team, an Elite 4 team, and a champion team. So first, we'll be making the team formats for her, then we'll analyzing her character, and then we'll use that analysis to come up with some new teams for her. So let's start with the team formats. Since Janine is a gym leader, I'll give her 8 different gym challenge teams depending on how many badges you have. Meaning if you just started your journey and challenge her with 0 gym badges, she'll face you with a small team of weak Pokemon to match with your strength. But if you have 7 gym badges and need only 1 more to face Elite 4 and the champion, Janine will use a full team of strong Pokemon to face you. Hold on, why am I giving her full team straight away even though none of the games have a gym leader with 6 Pokemon in any of the gym battle teams? Well, that's because to me, it makes it more interesting and fun if gym leader battles felt a lot more like boss battles because of how important they are to the story. Since every Pokemon game is designed for kids, the games are intentionally designed to be easy enough for kids who are new to Pokemon. And yeah, that makes complete sense in the marketing and audience aspect, but it makes it less fun, challenging, and interesting for the majority of Pokemon fans, the adults that grew up with Pokemon. And I could say that at least it makes it more fun for me only, but there's a lot of people out there who make and play ROM hacks that change existing Pokemon games to make the battles more interesting and challenging. So yes, that's why I'll be giving her a different gym battle team that change and increase in difficulty the more badges you have. After that, once you've gotten 8 badges in total, she'll then be available to challenge in a rematch where she use the strongest possible team that I think she could have. This rematch team might have Pokemon that aren't poison type because at that point, you aren't facing Janine as a gym challenger to get a badge from her, you're facing her at her strongest, meaning she might have a Mega Pokemon that I added. Stay tuned for that. After that, we'll then give her a hypothetical team for if she ever became an Elite 4 member. This team will have to be stronger than a rematch team so we can tell that Janine has gotten stronger since then. We'll be doing this by giving her a couple Pokemon from other regions that fit with her character themes. And finally, after that, we'll give her a champion team that's very similar to her Elite 4 team, but the team should at least look strong and be challenging enough to be on par with the existing Pokemon champions. And that's the team formats down. Now, we have to see what kind of Pokemon to give her. We'll do that by doing a character analysis. Alright, so Janine is pretty much the same exact type of trainer as her father, Koga. She's a poison type specialist who's also a ninja that uses a solid number of bug types. The signature Pokemon I set for her is Venomoth because in most of her teams in the core games, her highest leveled Pokemon is Venomoth, so its line will be included for most teams that I give her. The other Pokemon she commonly uses are Crobat, Ariados, and Weezing. I'll be giving her Crobat and Ariados to use in her teams, but not too much since I've made Crobat Koga's signature Pokemon. And Ariados isn't strong and has the same exact typing as Venomoth, so including both in every team will make it redundant. Other than that, their teams are pretty much the same as you can see in their Heart Gold and Soul Silver teams, so we can pretty much just give her the same exact team as Koga and call it a day. However, that will be incredibly boring and repetitive, so we'll make a few changes. One part about Janine's character as a gym leader is that she wants to apply herself and work hard on her skills to become better than her father. So what better way to do that than to strive off a different path? So what we'll be doing for her teams is we'll be keeping a similar principle to Koga's teams for Janine, but we'll be using as many different Pokemon as possible so it's not just a copy and paste. Her teams should reflect the same cutting strategies to them by prioritizing status infliction and utility moves over brute force since she is her father's greatest student. Janine also seems quite a lot nicer than her dad since in the games she doesn't gloat about how brutal her Pokemon and battle styles are. Also, in the Adventures manga, she's also shown to oppose her father's criminal ties with Team Rocket and is often worried about her father's safety. So with that, we won't focus too much on how much terror her Pokemon can ensue, like we did with Koga. And that's pretty much all to cover about Janine's character, so let's get right into her gym leader teams. So first up, when you challenge her as a newbie with 0 badges, she'll start off by using Ekans, Oddish, and Venonat, all poison type Pokemon that hover around the same base stat total as your first stage starter. In the core games, she has used Arbok before, hence I gave her Ekans, and since I gave Koga the Victory Bell line in his teams, I think Janine can use the Vileplume line as its counterpart, which works because barely anyone in Kanto uses Vileplume except Erika. Once you have received your first badge, she'll replace Ekans and Venonat with Nidorina and Quillfish, and then she'll evolve her Oddish into Gloom, strengthening her team to around the same base stat totals of a second stage starter. Gloom's grass typing gives her an edge over opposing ground and rock types, and it learns a lot of health stealing moves which fit Janine's indirect playstyle. Nidorina makes sense since she has used Nidoqueen in her Black 2 and White 2 team, and if you've watched my video on Koga, you'd see that I gave him Nidoking, so giving her the Nidoqueen lines shows another counterpart and represents a family connection between them. And in Qwilfish's case, it's a great fit for a poison ninja trainer like Janine because in the old days, it was believed that ninjas used pufferfish poison to kill their targets. Also, Qwilfish is pretty decent for a poison specialist trainer. It has a solid attack stat with great water stab moves to counter against ground types. It learns a heap of utility moves like status inducing moves and entry hazard moves. All in all, this makes Qwilfish a great fit for Janine and will be using it in a decent number of teams for her. Once you have 2 badges, she'll now use 4 Pokemon, so she'll replace Nidorina with Ariados and Golbat. Ariados is a Pokemon she uses in most of her teams in the games and is one of her Master's EX partners, so it had to be in her teams. It has access to solid utility moves that fit Janine's strategic playstyle, and its signature move Toxic Thread slows opponents down and poisons them, which is borderline perfect for her. In Golbat's case, it's a Pokemon she uses in every team in the core games and is also one of her Master's EX partners. In battle, it has great defensive typings and is immune to one of the weaknesses of the poison type, the ground type. It's got solid attack and speed stats at this stage, and it has access to a lot of solid utility moves for Janine to use. Next, once you have 3 badges, she'll lose her Ariados and Gloom to make room for 2 stronger Pokemon. The first one is her signature partner Pokemon, Venomoth, who will be Janine's status inducer and special attacker. It's got heaps of solid status moves and has decent special attack and speed stats with decent stab moves. Where her Venomoth can shine though is its ability to set itself up with Quiver Dance to become a powerful sweeper, which works really well with Janine's status inducing playstyle. The next team member I gave her might be a surprising one. For this team, I gave her Haunter. Yup, I'm using the Gengar line because it's a poison type and it fits thematically with ninjas since both ghosts and ninjas like to disappear into the shadows. Haunter and Gengar are literally known as the Shadow Pokemon. And going with Gengar shows that Janine is going a different route from her father to become a stronger trainer than him, so it makes sense. Next, once she has 4 badges, she gets to use 5 Pokemon now, and it's a simple addition this time. She keeps all her previous Pokemon and all she does is add Arbok in. Arbok's brutal Pokedex entries and how it fights fit Janine and Koga's cunning fighting style, and its Intimidate ability is extremely useful. Plus, it learns a whole lot of status moves. After that, with 5 badges, she'll replace Arbok and Qwilfish with Vileplume and Muck. Vileplume's a decently bulky Pokemon with great HP stealing moves and has the Effect Spore ability, which has a 30% chance of inducing a status effect on a Pokemon that makes physical contact with it. Muck in this team will serve as the special tank with its great HP and special defense stats. If she pairs it up with Rest, Sleep Talk, and Curse, it could definitely sweep a team or 2. Plus, if she really wanted, she could pair it up with Minimize instead. Next, Janine will now evolve her Golbat into Crobat and her Haunter into Gengar. Crobat's an extremely useful Pokemon for a Poison Specialist team and serves as a fast physical attacker with utility options. It's got an amazing speed stat and learns some decent stab moves, and its Infiltrate ability allows it to bypass substitutes, light screens, and reflects, which works in nuance with her as a ninja since it's like it sneaks past its opponent's defense and goes for the precise kill like a ninja would. And Crobat's a bit of a tank itself with great defensive typings and immunity to ground and decent bulk stats, so it's a very good Pokemon for her to have. In Gengar's case, it's a great special attacker with a lot of useful support moves. Its ghost typing allows it to counter most psychic types that want to feast on this team. It's got amazing special attack and speed stats and learns some solid stab moves, great coverage moves, and a lot of useful support moves. And since Janine's playstyle emphasizes inducing status conditions, if her Gengar learned Hex, it can take full advantage of it and deal 130 base damage with stab. Yup, quite a scary addition. Next, with 6 badges, she now gets to use a full team of 6, and at this stage, she'll just replace her Vileplume with Arbok and Ariados, so her team is full but not too strong yet. And finally, if you challenge her as your final gym leader with 7 badges, she'll replace her Arbok and Ariados with Vileplume again and a new addition, Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is a bulky Pokemon and will most likely serve as Janine's physical tank for this team. It's got a bunch of nice strategic utility moves like Stealth Rock and Toxic, and it learns a heck lot of nice stab moves and coverage moves. And it makes sense to give her Nidoqueen since she's had one in one of her teams in the games, and since I gave Nidoking to Koga, it serves as its counterpart and symbolizes that they're a family. And that's all the gym challenge teams I gave for Janine. Now, let's see what we gave her for a rematch team. For this team, I made it similar to her final gym challenge team as she keeps everyone except Vileplume. The newest addition I gave to her is Fortress since she uses a lot of bug types and Koga uses it in his Elite 4 teams, but I gave him Scizor instead. Fortress is a solid addition since it's extremely bulky on the physical end with the extra sturdy ability and has access to some of the best entry hazard moves in the games alongside a hazard removing one in Rapid Spin, so it's quite a good strategic Pokemon for her, especially since this team needs a physical tank. Hold up, I'm not done. In this team, I'm also going to Mega Evolve her Gengar. I think it makes sense to give it to her since her goal is to become a stronger trainer than her Elite 4 father, and Mega Gengar is probably the strongest poison type from Kanto. It also works out really well since Janine becomes a gym leader around the same time as Agatha retiring from the Elite 4, so there won't be any major trainers in Kanto that specialize at using Gengar at this time. In battle, Gengar's a dog. It's got monster special attack and speed stats which paired with solid stab moves and with some nice coverage moves allow it to be an amazing sweeper. If you pair this with Hex and status inducing teammates, Gengar would smack any Pokemon it wants. Also, its Shadow Tag ability lets it trap opponents into being unable to switch out, which is a cunning strategy both Janine and Koga will definitely take full advantage of. So yeah, Mega Gengar's a great fit to be Janine's ace and will definitely help her to become stronger than her father. An honorable mention I have is Ariados, and I did include it in some teams, but as one of her least used Pokemon, I felt I didn't use it enough in the teams. It makes sense why though since I made her signature Pokemon Venomoth and I also used a grass and poison type in some teams, so I felt keeping Ariados in was redundant, especially since at this stage it's a bit weak. Plus, keeping it out this much allows us to highlight more for Kanto Pokemon and there's already a bug type specialist in Johto, so I think I made the right decision. Next up, we'll be exploring the team I came up for if she manages to become as strong as her dad and earn the same ranking as him. Let's explore her Elite 4 team. Now for this team, we'll be heavily switching it up. To start off, only Mega Gengar and Venomoth stay in the team for obvious reasons, and I removed Crobat to show that Janine's trying to separate her team from her father since I made Crobat his signature Pokemon and vice versa with him removing Venomoth from his team as an Elite 4 member. A bit of a sad removal since it's such a good fit for this team, but we move. Now with the team. First off, she gets Gliscor, which fits thematically since it's a Johto based Pokemon with a lot of poison aspects to it. It's a flying scorpion thing which learns a lot of poison moves and has the ability Poison Heal, so we can pretty much just say it's an honorary poison type, eh? In battle, it will serve as our physical tank and stall breaker. It's got phenomenal offensive and defensive coverage with decent speed and physical attack stats so it can take damage and deal it right back. An eye for an eye. It can also set up with Sword Stance and sweep with Stab, Earthquake and coverage moves, and it's got amazing utility moves like Toxic, Stealth Rock and Knockoff, so it's quite a useful Pokemon for her team. The next team member is Weavile, which fits the ninja aspect of Janine since it has a sleek and agile build, and since it's a dark type, it fits with how a ninja operates in secrecy in the shadows. In battle, it's a glass cannon. It's a fast physical attacker that can be used as a setup attacker and a revenge killer, and its dark and ice stab allow it to counter the weaknesses of the poison type. Next up, we have a Selgor, who's an obvious fit since it's a fast, ninja, bug type with a cool ninja scarf like she does, and it also learns Greninja's signature move Water Shuriken, which can damage some ground, rock, and fire types which are a threat to this team. It would most likely be a speedy hazard setter on this team where it can use an abundance of entry hazard moves. In terms of offense, it's extremely fast and can hit decently hard, and its bug stab allows it to counter some psychic types, and it learns some coverage moves that can damage some of the threats against this team. Defensively, it's not great, but if the opponent can't knock it out quickly, Janine could make it so a Selgor can set a teammate up with Baton Pass so a teammate has a substitute or agility on. So yeah, I included Greninja and Ninjask on Koga's team, and I included a Selgor in Janine's team. And the final Pokemon I have for our Elite 4 team is Overqwil, which I know some of you wanted for Janine. I gave it to her for the same reasoning as Qwilfish, and normally, I try not to give Hisuian Pokemon to modern trainers since a lot of them can't be found in the wild in the current age, but Hisuian Qwilfish is able to be found at the Blueberry Academy in Unova, and it's confirmed that Janine has visited Unova once since she participated in the World Tournament there. In battle, its poison and dark typing is a great offensive and defensive type combination with an immunity to psychic, and it has solid attack and defense stats so it would serve as a physical tank, especially since it learns the intimidate ability. On offense, Janine can either run it as a spike setter or a rain dance sweeper. As a spike setter, it would set spikes down along with other utility moves, and it'll have 2 stab moves to deal some damage. As a Rain Dance sweeper, Overcool would learn Rain Dance and have the ability Swift Swim, which allows it to be extremely fast in the rain. It would have its Dark and Poison stab moves, but it would also have a powered up water move which is very useful against the fire types that are strong against half against of Janine's team. Plus, there's a little option for her to baton pass from a Selgor to Overcool. I don't know, just an idea. And that's it for our Elite 4 team. Now, let's finally finish the video with our champion team. Alright, so for this team we'll only be making 2 changes. First, the 2 Pokemon we're replacing from our Elite 4 team are Overcool and a Selgor because I found 2 replacements which I think can do a better job than them. The first Pokemon I added is Scolipede because it's a poison and bug type, Janine's 2 specialized types, and it's also from Unova where she's been to canonically. Scolipede plays a similar role to a Selgor as it can be used as a hazard setter or a setup sweeper. As a setup sweeper, she can run with sword stance along with speed boost, stab moves, and coverage moves so it's extremely fast and hard hitting, or we can make it a baton pass setup instead into most likely Weavile. So now you'll have an extremely fast and hard hitting Pokemon with Dark and Ice stab and fighting coverage moves against you. And as a hazard setter, it's still extremely fast with speed boost and it's got access to a wide range of entry hazard moves and it can still deal some physical damage. So it's a really good Pokemon to have in a poison specialist team. And to round off the video, the Pokemon I have replacing Overcool is Alolan Muck, because it's a solid poison and dark type which can serve as Janine's special tank which she's in dire need of. Its 105 HP and 100 special defense stats alongside its amazing typing allow it to eat a lot of special attacks and give it right back with its 105 attack stat. It's got some decent poison moves and can make psychic types suffer with Knockoff and Shadow Sneak. Plus, put Drain Punch in as well, and it can crack a couple steel and rock types too. And if she really wants, she can use Minimize with this too. So yeah, I think this team can do quite solid as her champion team. Before we end the video, let me just list a couple honorable mentions for both her champion team and her Elite 4 team. First, I'd like to shout Drapion out because it was my original pick to be her poison and dark Pokemon instead of Alolan Muck and Overcool. But like I said, Janine was in dire need of a special tank and Drapion is more of a physical wall. So instead of Janine, I might apply Drapion into Koga's team instead. The second honorable mention is Roserade because it provides more coverage against ground and rock types and Janine has one in her Black 2 and White 2 teams, but I didn't find a spot for her to replace in the team without increasing the team's weakness to fire types. I couldn't replace a Selgor because even if it does make the team better, she should have at least 1 ninja Pokemon in the team. I also couldn't replace Weavile because then we'd have 3 bug poison and grass poison Pokemon in the team, which is a bad idea for a champion team. And I could have replaced Scolipede with Roserade, but I lead more towards Scolipede and I've already given a Roserade to another Kanto gym leader. The third honorable mention is Zoroark. Maybe I should have given it to Janine, and even though it fits as an illusionist type of Pokemon which fits with how Janine's gym stuff all appear to look exactly like her, I just thought that since she already has Gengar who relates to shadows and illusions itself, Zoroark would take away some of the poison aspect of the gym and the other Unovan Pokemon I gave to her. I'm not completely sure, but if you have any ideas on how to incorporate Zoroark into her champion team, leave it in the comments below and I might have Zoroark and her team in a future video about Kanto gym leaders. And the final one that I'd like to mention is Dragalge because its purple seaweed appendages kind of resemble Janine's ninja scarf, but ultimately I didn't find a good fit for it. So yeah, this is the champion team that I came up for. I'm pretty happy with it, but I'd like to hear some of your opinions and suggestions to improve it. And that's it for the video. I'm pretty happy with it, but you guys let me know in the comments. Did I cook, guys?
Oh my god, bro.
So yeah, next episode we'll be covering Sabrina. No, not that one. This Sabrina. If you've got any ideas for her, leave it in the comments below. And that's it for me. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, see y'all in the next one. Peace.